3012D, and what's true as of now. And I'll just run through it pretty quickly. We do anticipate it will change somewhat based on what the legislators are saying, but it is what it is now. The tax cap has been extended for another 4 years. That's part of this. Greater testing transparency. They're going to release more questions from the assessments. My contention to that is unless they release the entire test, so we can go over every child's test to see where the deficiencies are, and like we used to do, and the teachers really took apart the questions to figure out why the kids got it wrong. We spent countless hours doing that, principals, teachers, and central administrators. It's useless to inform instruction. So throwing us another 20% of the questions doesn't really help us. Teachers, administrators will have to register every 5 years and complete a certain amount of staff development hours over those 5 years. To me, that most everybody has well over 100 hours of service every 5 years, so that's really not a major thing. Tenure for teachers and administrators is now 4 years rather than 3. If a teacher had previous tenure, it used to be 2 years, now it's 3 years. With the new testing company, Questar, there'll be a content review committee, which the commissioner has said will contain parents, teachers, administrators, to review the test questions. Big area, APPR. The annual professional performance review will now have 2 components rather than 3. Evaluation, student performance or growth, and the observations. The annual the growth component, just so you know, is being litigated now. The growth component is built on bell curve. So no matter how well students do, for a teacher, through the state, 7% have to fail. 7% have to be highly effective. And everybody else is forced in the middle. That's being litigated, and based on some of the judges' comments, certainly that there's nothing definite yet, but it was like the judges' comments dealing with the Brady decision. They were basically asking the NFL, "Are you kidding me?" type of questions, and that's what they're asking NYSED. Are you kidding me that you're judging his performance on a bell curve, so 7% have to fail no matter what their performance are, because they're going to compare it against other people's performance. So again, that's in litigation.
And will also should be.
Okay, all principals and teachers that have students in courses that culminates in the state exam will receive that state growth score as they do now. All our principals have exams, so all of them get their growth scores. Many teachers, the majority of the teachers, do not have courses that end in state exams, so they would not get growth scores. That would be a student learning objective. which at this time we use school-wide measures, and we can continue to use school-wide measures.
See where there's this discrepancy there?
Oh, yeah, it's not consistent. They have a APPR growth score matrix that you have to go by now. It's different than the last agreement. The second part, the observations. Observations have always been a key point to evaluating staff. However, only between 80 and 90% of the observation can be done by the principal or supervisor, chairperson, superintendent in the case of the principals. An independent observer from outside the building can be up to 10 to 20%. So we have to send a person that doesn't know the teaching staff.
So an outside observer can be from a different building in the district?
Correct.
We did Ron going to.
Yeah, Mr. Hoffer can go to the middle school or elementary school
I know there was some controversy about that.
and observe the teacher that he doesn't work with every day. Makes absolutely no sense at all. Other than that, it's pretty much the same. The observations can be announced or unannounced. We do have training for observers that needs to take place. We consider that another unfunded mandate. But our administrators, chair people, will have a 3-day training over the next 3 months. Some of the things that you can no longer do. You can no longer use a portfolio for teachers or principals. Their lesson plans are not allowed to be used.
The lesson plans are not allowed to be used.
Nope.
That just strikes me as
That's an artifact.
lesson plans, which is what they actually use to teach the students.
You can't use student portfolios, can't use lesson plans, can't use any artifacts.
Can you make this stuff up at all? I mean, that's just sounds.
The only thing you can use in that rubric, it has to be a rubric that's mutually accepted.
John thinks teachers can't use lesson plans, but.
Teachers always use lesson
Yeah,
plans.
same for
We
evaluation.
just can't use it to
Right.
evaluate them.
Oh, okay.
The supervisor can't use it to evaluate.
I'm just, got confused there for a second.
No, all teachers use lesson
But
plans.
they can't be used as part of the evaluation process.
Correct.
So where a principal might look at the lesson plan and say, you hit these indicators.
Exemplar.
and-
Right.
Yep. Can't use professional goal setting. Can't use district or regionally developed assessments if not approved by SED. And who knows how long that would take. That's used, by the way, a lot in foreign language, where we used to have a state test called a proficiency test. And now there's a consortium in Suffolk County where the teachers get together and use the same test to try to keep the level of level 1 foreign language to a certain rigorous level, and that test could no longer be used.
Instrument for parent or student feedback. Would that be the parent portal or?
Well, there are places and there are instruments that have, depending on the age of the student, they have either a parent or a student questionnaire. And honestly, statistically, I know people don't like me to say this, but statistically, that's actually a very good indicator. But you couldn't use it if you wanted to. And overall, the 50-50 matrix If you get a certain level of the 4, highly effective, effective, developing, ineffective for observations, you have the same for student performance, and wherever you fit in that matrix is what your total is. Now, they have an asterisk here on this. If a teacher is rated ineffective on a student performance category, and the state design supplemental, so because that's a possibility, although we don't know, the state hasn't given us any guidance on what that second growth measure can be. But if you have the 2 growth measures and they're both ineffective, no matter what you get in observation, it has to be ineffective. Total loss of local control. Big issue with the deadlines. Basically, the deadline is pretty much close to passing for getting this completed for the beginning of this year, 15-16. State Education Department has allowed us to do a waiver, 4-month waiver, which will have to be done during the month of October. So my guess is that's the direction we will go. We'll be looking for a waiver in October, and that will cover us through March, which we'll have to do a second waiver. If we don't come up with a plan, the state hasn't given us sufficient information to even possibly come up with a plan. Bottom line is, a plan must be submitted by July 1st at this point, 2016, even if you get your 2 waivers. If it's not, we will forfeit state aid. And that would be for next year, not this year. So we have been negotiating with the administrative unit and the teachers unit in good faith. Most of the problems are that the state has not come up with the proper guidance to make decisions.
I think holding the taxpayers ransom in contract negotiations. It's wrong in so many ways. Ransoming our kids for what adults should be discussing. It's really, that's our government doing that. It's really is unacceptable. So it's, we're supposed to be educating them. They're not supposed to be stuck in the middle of this. It's disgusting what the government is doing.
Well, the legislators had to okay it. My guess is some of that might change, especially during an election year. That's a brief overview. If anything new comes out, I'll certainly share it with you. John, you want to briefly go over school opening?
Sure. So we had another exciting opening to the school year. And the one word that keeps coming up repeatedly was overall how smooth things went. I had the pleasure of being in all 5 school buildings during the opening week. In the high school, we truly launched our exciting one-to-one initiative. All of our 9th graders and 10th graders received their Chromebooks. The teachers were ready and able to take advantage, and so that's getting off to a very good start. We are anxiously anticipating a visitation from SED related to our reward school status. Our teachers have received training and are using the new gradebook for Infinite Campus in the high school. And I don't know if anyone's mentioned it to you or not, but the high school fell within the top 500 on Newsweek's rating. So kudos to all of our educators at the high school. And one thing I'd like to add is it doesn't just happen in a vacuum. You know, it's all the schools feeding our students up, and it's the supportive community. Mr. Murray and his entire faculty did an outstanding job being flexible and proactive, working with Mr. Belmonte and the contractors. Essentially, opening day at the middle school went like any other opening day at the middle school. And when you consider the fact that the roof, you know, the project is well on its way to being completed, but it is not completed, the fact that the opening went as smoothly as it did is just a credit to everyone involved. And I want to also thank the parents for their patience. We had to make some adjustments in the schedule for the incoming sixth graders, and they were very willing to adjust. We also welcomed a new group of students into our middle school. We have a functional academic program, and everyone is very excited, and that seems to be getting off to a very good start. Over the summer, Mr. Murray and the faculty introduced summer reading using Google Classroom as a tool to support it. We had an excellent participation rate, probably about 90%. And for those students who were not able to access it or had difficulty, the faculty is currently working with those students right now, so that we anticipate by the end of next week, 100% of our students will have participated in the summer reading activities. Kindergarten orientation in all three elementary schools is truly an outstanding thing. If you haven't experienced it, I always would like to extend an invitation to the board. We welcome our new kindergartners. They come in with their parents, they meet their teachers. It's been very well received. Our RTI process has already kicked off and it's going very well. Lincoln Avenue had their PTA meeting last night, and I believe they had over 70 parents attend. So
minimum 70. So
kudos to the Lincoln Avenue PTA. Sunrise Drive shared this lovely photograph of Sunny the duck, and you know, a picture says 1,000 words. So I decided to put it up on the screen. That was the first day of school for kindergartners, and it just you know, it's always great to welcome our newest students. I believe it's the class of 2028.
Wow.
So watch out, world.
28.
Cherry Avenue remarked about how smooth transportation went this year. We really, you know, you always have kinks the first week of school with transportation, but very few. So
the town didn't decide to pave any roads on the first day of school.
So as far as I know, right, Mr. Belmonte. Prior to the start of school, a long-standing tradition in Sayville, STA and the district worked together to welcome our new teachers. We have, exciting to say, we actually have some new teachers joining us, and they received an orientation that I think is a model for other districts to emulate. The consistent feedback, the elementaries are excited about lower class size, and they made it a point to say thank you. Yesterday we had our first Curriculum Leadership Council meeting, and I want to say thank you. You know, that was thanks to the board's support, and so we greatly appreciate that. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that one of the concerns, we've launched a new program this year called ACE, Academic Challenge and Enrichment, and that is an evolution of our SEED program. And while we feel it's off to a very good start, there have been some parent concerns expressed. So, you know, I do want to mention that, and we will be continuing to work on that to address those concerns.
John's going to do a report on that.
I'll give the board a
Thursday's meeting.
But really a very remarkable start to the school year, and God bless our teachers and students, because it's been hot in the buildings. And I was at a Sunrise Drive yesterday, and the poor kids, the sweat was coming off of them and tripping onto their work, and they were still working. So, you know, teachers modified it, obviously, turned the lights out, maybe had a little cross ventilation going, but the kids were doing their work and they weren't complaining. So just a great start to the school year. and we're excited. A lot of exciting things on the agenda. Thank you.
A word for the board, the Sayville Bayport Advocacy Group has started
Back at it.
they're back at it, yep, to finally end the GEA. They were present at the Sunrise Drive meeting last night, the Cherry tonight. Gathering,
I think there's some cards on the table.
yep, gathering people and trying to get the word out. So there are more cards updated for this year.
And speaking of GEA, which I like to speak about the GEA often, I had a chance to meet with Phil Boyle yesterday. And I did discuss with him GEA, and he is hopeful, being it's election year, that we will get full restoration this year.
The Senate has always been supportive of that, especially the Republican senators. One of the biggest proponents of this is John Flanagan, who's big cheese now.
Yes, he is.
So if it's up to them, we would have gotten it all back by now.
And amongst other things, I spoke to Senator Boyle about it, was GEA and APPR and tax cap, et cetera, and so forth.
Informational, Mr. Belmonte, the issues with setting a tax rate.
Yeah, usually at this time, we presented the board with a picture of fund balance and where we are in setting up the tax rate. And as you know, to do that, we need information and have certain variables that we would normally receive from the town of Islip, such as the assessed valuation and base allocation numbers. As we discussed with the board at the last meeting, we have received the assessed valuation numbers, but we have not received the base allocation numbers. So we are unable to present to the board a setting of the tax rate for the 15-16 school year. What we understand is that there is a bill that's sitting on the governor's desk that has not been signed. And until that bill is signed, the town of Islip cannot finalize those numbers. So we're hopeful within the next maybe week or so. I know that Dr. Schottner reached out to our senator, and we are putting a little bit of pressure on our local
What's the bill?
legislators to set the base allocations for the town of Islip.
What's the bill that the governor needs to sign?
I don't know.
We don't have the number.
But, you know, that's where we are at this particular point. The other news that we found out today that we were a little shocked, Ron Devine, the assessor for the town of Islip, tomorrow is his last day, and he will be moving to the town of Brookhaven. So we are losing a friend to Sayville, and he is going to Brookhaven, so we do wish him well. He's been a tremendous supporter over the years and helpful. So as soon as we get that information, we will bring it to the board. If we get it by next week, we'll bring it to the next board meeting, the 17th. If not, the board does have to set the tax rate by October 1st, and it will mean calling a special meeting,
Unless we have it by the 11th.
unless you have it by next week.
I'm sorry, the
17th,
17th, sorry.
yes. So that's the news on the tax rate.
And one more, John.
Middle school roof update.
Tested.
It was tested, and yes, and we passed the test. Now, we may have had a little drips here and there where they were working, but nothing like we encountered last winter. And as John indicated, I could not be more pleased with the status and the amount of work that was completed so far. We are on schedule. We are currently working on the locker room areas by the gym, and we're currently working on the pool area. What we have recently discovered in that, in taking apart the soffit area in the pool, we do have a significant amount of corrosion inside on the steel beams on that man side. I spent a good part of the morning up on a lift with my head up in that man side, and it appears that we're going to have to rebuild a considerable amount of that structure around the entire building.
That's
So,
the perimeter of the building?
yes, that's on the outside, has
But you
nothing
could-
to do
That
with
fell
the.
apart before.
Yeah, it fell apart before,
Right.
right.
Right, but now the,
Now it's just coating on the
because of
outside.
all the, I guess, the chlorine gases and what I consider lack of ventilation in the soffit, all of the metal structural supports
Are we gonna-
are kind of rusted. So I was there today with the architect and the engineer, and we're going to be drawing up plans to actually rebuild the structural part of that mass.
Make improvements or may not happen?
Yes, yes. It has nothing to do with the structure of the building. Whatever steel we're talking about is the steel that's used just to support the mansard itself. The walls and the beams
So
and
just the
and
facade.
everything is fine.
It's
Just
just
the
a decorative structure.
Yes. We do anticipate that we can use the exterior skins that were put up previously.
It's not stucco?
No, those are panels,
Panels,
metal
yeah.
panels. So we will take those down, try to save them, and rebuild the understructure. So I will be coming back to the board, maybe at the next meeting or the meeting thereafter, with more information on that. And considering where we are, for the amount of square footage on that particular job, we are really fortunate not to have run into more significant issues. So we are still within our budget projections, which is a great thing. And some of the things that we have done with that job to make it easier for some of the other jobs that we're doing, we're kind of moving pieces of the HVAC work from the pool into this particular project, so we don't have to rip up the roof again, put existing structure and support scaling. So things are going very well, and everything is proceeding as planned.
Yeah, I wouldn't know why it hasn't rained since graduation.
We were saving it all up for your roof.
It wasn't allowed to rain.
It wasn't allowed to rain, we had tested the middle school
It
roof.
was really great that it hasn't rained. Because we would probably be looking at probably June for the completion of this job.
When do we anticipate the teams getting back in there?
We anticipate, we have a very aggressive schedule, and by the end of September, we will be done with the pool. The pool roof is about 3/4 done. We will be done with the pool roof in the third week in September, by the end of the third week in September. The mansard work is not going to affect the opening of the pool or the operation of the pool. So by October 1st, we plan on having organizations and everyone back into the area.
Very good.
That's all I had on my list.
Being that we
And some business.
can't do any business, so I recommend that the items of the board discussion get put on the 17th. Well, I'm sorry, we don't have a quorum, so we can't really just do any board business other than just a general discussion, so. Thanks for all coming out tonight in the rain and coming to see us. And, thanks. And thanks for, I see a couple of PTA people back there. Thanks for coming. And want to talk about the Mets, the Yankees, otherwise, no, we're done. We're done. We're done. Thanks for coming, everybody. Sorry.
Sorry.
See you next week.